The adventure and superhero story begins by showing a man named Hang, who looks like a beggar. Hang's condition seems to be in a very bad state. After a while, a child comes to him, lifts him up, scolds him badly, and then leaves. At this point, Hang watches on TV that some thieves are stealing a lot of money and are escaping in a car. The police officers are struggling to catch the thieves. That's when Hang decides to help the police catch the thieves. Here, we learn that Hang is no ordinary person. He is actually a superhero with many unique powers. It's because of these powers that he helps people. Hang then uses his super jump ability and heads straight for the thieves' car. He manages to stop them and traps their car on top of a building. However, in the process of helping, he causes a lot of damage. The media and the public now know about Hang's powers, but instead of thanking him, they start criticizing him because, for every person he has helped, he has caused even more destruction. This was the reason why no one liked Hang. But Hang didn't care about these things. He always did things his way and continued causing destruction wherever he went. He had accepted that people would never think of him as a good person. No one understood that Hang only wanted to help. Now, despite having so many powers, he couldn't control them, but that wasn't Hang's fault. People just loved to criticize him. Next, we are shown a railway track with several cars crossing it. Among them is a man named Ray, whose car gets stuck on the tracks. Both cars in front and behind him are blocking his way, so he can't move his car. The problem worsens when a train comes speeding toward him. Ray becomes extremely scared and tries to get out of the car, but his foot gets stuck inside, making it impossible for him to escape in time. The train is getting closer to his car, and it seems like Ray's life is in danger. But at that very moment, Hang makes his entrance. Hang lifts Ray's car with one hand and places it aside, but by then, the train crashes into Hang. Hang has such superhuman stamina that the entire train is destroyed, the engine is torn apart, and all the compartments behind it fall off. Such massive destruction, just to save one person, is something no one appreciated. The entire public gathers around, but instead of thanking Hang, they start criticizing him because of the massive destruction he caused. Hang, obviously, doesn't care because he's heard so many nasty things about him. No one in the city likes Hang, but then Ray comes forward and thanks Hang for saving his life. The others leave, but Ray continues to express his gratitude. Since Ray's car was destroyed, he asks Hang for help in getting home. Shortly after, Hang lifts Ray's car and places it near his home. Many children nearby are shocked to see this. After a while, Ray's son, Aaron, arrives and is very happy. Aaron is a huge fan of Hang, and seeing him in person makes him very excited. Ray invites Hang for a meal since dinner is almost ready. When Ray's wife, Mary, sees Hang, she becomes very disappointed because she doesn't like Hang at all. But Hang sits down and enjoys the meal with the whole family. He becomes quite comfortable with Ray's son, Aaron, and even starts joking with him. However, Mary doesn't like the way Hang is talking to her son. Aaron starts telling everyone about some boys at school who are bullying him and that he's unsure how to deal with them. Hang suggests to Aaron that he should attack the middle part of the bullies, implying a physical confrontation to defeat even the biggest enemies. It was clear that Hang was teaching Aaron how to fight. Upon hearing this, Mary yells at Hang, telling him that Aaron is just a child and shouldn't be taught such things. After dinner, as Hang is leaving, Ray tries to give him some advice. He tells Hang that if he wants people to start liking him, he needs to change his behavior and approach towards his work. Only then will people start appreciating him again. Hang leaves for a while but returns to Ray's house some time later. He starts asking Ray what he should do to make people like him again. Ray understands Hang's situation and takes him inside his house. We are shown flashbacks of how Hang had used his powers to help many people, but his overuse of them often led to a lot of destruction and damage to infrastructure. This was the reason people started to hate him. While Hang and his wife were watching TV together, several reporters were talking about how Hang misused his powers. Lawsuits had been filed against him, and he wasn't even showing up for court. People were saying that no one could fight Hang because he had superpowers, making him untouchable. At that moment, Ray comes up with an idea. He suggests that Hang should surrender himself and spend a few years in prison. Ray believes that if Hang is in jail, crime will increase outside, and eventually, they will have no choice but to release him. Hang is deep in thought but eventually agrees to Ray's suggestion. He goes to a press conference, apologizes, and surrenders himself. Hang is quickly taken into custody and locked up. However, there's a big problem. Most of the prisoners inside the jail had been arrested by Hang himself, so they all want to kill him. All the prisoners stare at him with hostility and move toward him to attack. But Hang isn't scared at all. Some prisoners try to attack him, but Hang easily defends himself and teaches them a lesson. It becomes clear that no one can defeat Hang in this way. Over time, Hang spends his days in jail, but he starts to get bored. He has so much power that he could break out of prison easily, but Ray had advised him to follow the rules and regulations. Ray told him that if he stayed calm, his sentence would be reduced, and eventually, a time would come when crime would increase in the city without Hang's presence, and the government would have no choice but to release him. After Ray's advice, Hang decides to stay in jail and follow the plan. Hang was still feeling restless in jail, and crime in the city had started increasing drastically. One day, a police officer arrives at the prison to release Hang and asks for his help. The situation was that many terrorists had infiltrated an infrastructure and were causing widespread destruction. To stop these dangerous terrorists, Hang was needed. Hang was quickly freed, and Ray, who had been waiting for this moment, had also prepared a superhero suit for him. Hang puts on the suit and heads straight for the terrorists. Unlike his usual style of recklessly charging into situations, this time Hang follows the plan that Ray had given him. He arrives calmly and lands smoothly, making his entrance with precision. Ray had also told him that whenever he sees a police officer, he should appreciate them. So, Hang starts giving thumbs-ups to the police officers as a sign of gratitude. The police officer explains the situation, the terrorists are inside, and there's a female officer trapped there, whose life is in danger. Hang, still appreciating and giving thumbs-ups, goes inside. Within a minute, he rescues the female officer and brings her out safely, all while continuing to appreciate and thank everyone. He gives so many thumbs-ups that the police officers start getting irritated, but since he is helping them, they don't say anything. Inside, the terrorists are armed with advanced weapons and have taken several hostages. However, Hang enters and starts eliminating the terrorists one by one. The terrorist group has no idea what hit them and is quickly defeated. Hang rescues all the hostages and brings them out safely. This time, the police officers thank Hang for his excellent work. The media and officials present also start viewing Hang in a positive light and applaud him for helping without causing any destruction. Hang is shocked because he has never received this kind of respect in his life. He feels immensely happy and promises himself that he will continue helping people in this manner. Using his superpowers, Hang quickly takes off and flies away. Now, people genuinely start to like Hang. That night, Hang is having dinner with Ray and his wife, Mary. Both Ray and Mary are quite happy and are speaking to Hang in a friendly manner. Ray begins to think that Hang must be from another planet and must have a family somewhere. However, Hang doesn't know anything about it. Many years ago, when Hang opened his eyes, he found himself in a hospital. At that time, when nurses came to give him an injection, his body was so strong that the injection would break. Even when he was born, Hang didn't cry. The saddest part was that while every other patient had their family members visiting them in the hospital, Hang had no family. He was left alone. Hang felt that he would have to live the rest of his life in this loneliness. But today, for the first time, he had received some respect, which made him feel a bit better. Mary, hearing this, becomes very emotional. At the end, she apologizes to Hang for her rude behavior toward him in the past. Hang reassures her, telling her that it wasn't her fault. Hang's life is so complex that anyone could cry after hearing his story. Hang makes a promise to Ray that he will follow his advice and continue helping people. Later that night, Ray drinks a lot, and Hang takes him home, putting him to bed. Mary is still in the kitchen, emotionally affected by Hang's story. Hang goes to talk to her, and the two begin talking for a long time. They realize they have a lot in common, and they start feeling very close to each other. Slowly, Hang and Mary become so close that they begin kissing. Hang enjoys the moment, but suddenly, Mary grabs him and throws him away with so much power that it breaks part of the house, and Hang lands on a car outside. Hang is shocked, realizing that Mary has powers just like him. He starts wondering how she could have powers like his. Mary, now confronting Hang, warns him that if he tells Ray or anyone about this, she will not let him go. Hang is left completely stunned, as he thought he was the only one in the world with these kinds of powers. But now, the truth was out, Mary has similar abilities. The next morning, when Ray wakes up, he notices a huge hole in his house. Mary, however, lies to Ray, telling him that Hang couldn't control himself after drinking the previous night and jumped out of the house. Soon, Hang arrives at their place, and Ray, impressed by Hang, invites him for breakfast. While Ray gets busy with breakfast, Hang, on the other hand, starts investigating Mary. He wants to find out if she is truly as powerful as he thinks. Hang takes a sharp object and strikes it against Mary's body, but the object bends because her body is so tough. To test further, he hits her head with another object, but it breaks. Mary, now furious, glares at Hang. Finally, Hang picks up two utensils and attempts to strike her, but Mary turns to face him with a powerful look, and for the first time, Hang feels scared. He quickly says that he only wants to talk. Mary replies that she will answer all of his questions, but afterward, he must leave her family alone. She explains that no one in her family knows about their secret. Mary then moves closer to Hang to explain everything. Hang starts by asking, "Who are we?" Mary simply explains that many people consider them as gods or superheroes, possessing unlimited amounts of energy. Hang then asks if there are others like them in the world. After thinking for a moment, Mary answers that she cannot say for sure, but some time ago, many others like them had died. She believes that only the two of them, with superhuman stamina, are left. Hang, still confused, asks about the relationship between him and Mary. Mary finally reveals that they are siblings, brother and sister. Hang refuses to believe it, as what happened the previous night seemed far too intimate for a brother and sister. This leaves Hang perplexed. He decides to go and ask Ray about it, using his superhuman stamina to fly away. However, Mary doesn't want Ray to know anything about this. So, now she also went after Hang using her powers. Both fought in the air so intensely that they were bent on killing each other. After continuing their battle in the air, they ended up in the city, where they started causing massive destruction. During this entire fight, Hang was convinced that Mary was stronger than him, as she easily blocked every attack of his and countered him. Mary became so angry that she started demonstrating her powers in front of people, lifting huge trucks and throwing them at Hang. During their fight, the destruction was so massive that no one could have expected it. Now, Ray, who used to work in a building, saw his wife there. He noticed that she was flying while fighting Hang, and had the same powers as him. This realization automatically shocked Ray. He went back home and waited for his wife. Mary had badly defeated Hang and returned home immediately. Ray, furious, asked her who she was and why she had kept such a big secret from him. Hang and Mary were both present there, and Mary finally told Ray the truth, that she was just like Hang, possessing many superhuman powers, but she had never revealed it. Ray, still angry, asked her about her relationship with Hang. At that moment, Mary revealed that they were husband and wife. Many years ago, Mary had intentionally stayed away from Hang because it was better for both of them. But their destiny was such that Hang would find her no matter what. The problem was that whenever Mary and Hang were together, their powers would automatically diminish and eventually disappear. Over time, they would grow old and die. This was the reason Mary left Hang and chose to live a normal life. Ray was deeply hurt by all of this and became very sad. When Hang also found out the truth, he left from there. Hang then went to a store to buy something, but suddenly, the shopkeeper signaled to Ray that there were two thieves in the store who were blackmailing him. Hang immediately understood and started taking the two thieves outside and beating them up. The thieves had guns and were firing at him, but Hang wasn't afraid, as he had superhuman stamina, which allowed him to overpower them. However, when one of the thieves shot at Hang, he noticed that the bullet, which he thought could not harm him, had caused blood to leak from his body. This made Hang feel much weaker, and he started feeling dizzy. He fell unconscious, realizing that Mary was right. Whenever they were near each other, they would become much weaker. Their superhuman stamina had indeed been reduced. Hang was severely injured, and he was quickly rushed to the hospital as his condition was really bad. When Mary heard about this, she immediately went to the hospital to see him. She became very emotional upon seeing him in such a state, as she couldn't bear to see him hurt like this. Mary made it clear to Hang that his powers had diminished because he was near her, but if he moved away from her, he would recover quickly and his powers would return. Hang, now weakened, asked Mary what had happened years ago when he regained consciousness in the hospital. Mary began to explain that they had been together for many generations. The last time, when they were going to watch a movie, riots had broken out, and during the chaos, Hang had suffered a severe head injury. He had been quickly admitted to the hospital, and Mary was with him at that time. But due to the injury, Hang couldn't recognize her, and in that moment, Mary decided that she would stay away from him so that he would recover. Since then, Mary chose to live a normal life, away from Hang. That was when Hang's powers returned, and he became the city's superhero. Mary then explained that it was more important for him to protect the people of the city than for them to be together. He was the superhero of the city, and the people felt safe because of him. So, it would be better for both of them to live separately and lead their own lives. But suddenly, Hang sensed a danger approaching. It was the two terrorists who had survived the last time when Hang had ruined their plans and killed many of their associates. These two terrorists had entered the hospital to get revenge on Hang. Hang was unable to sense them clearly because Mary was with him and he was already weakened. As the two terrorists entered the hospital, they prepared to take action. The terrorists began firing, and Mary stepped forward to protect Hang. Several bullets hit her, causing her to fall to the ground. It was obvious that, just like how Hang became weaker when they were together, Mary too was weakened and couldn't use her superhuman stamina. But Hang, despite being injured, tried his best to fight back against the terrorists. His first priority was to get Mary to safety, as she was in a critical condition with multiple bullet wounds. After placing Mary in a safe spot, Hang became enraged and launched an attack on the terrorists. He managed to kill one of them, but the second terrorist kept shooting at him. Hang became so weak from his injuries that he could barely move. Eventually, he collapsed in front of the terrorist, kneeling before him. The terrorist aimed his gun at Hang's head, determined to kill him and take revenge for his fallen comrades. Just as the terrorist was about to pull the trigger, Ray arrived from behind and cut off the terrorist's hand, eliminating the threat. Ray had saved Hang's life. While the terrorists were dealt with, Mary's condition was dire. She needed urgent treatment or she would die. Her powers had diminished drastically, and she was in critical condition. The doctors quickly took Mary to the operating theater because her situation was extremely fragile. Her heart rate had dropped to 0, and they had to give her repeated shocks to revive her. Hang, who was still weak, understood that as long as he stayed near Mary, she wouldn't recover. He made the tough decision to leave the hospital. As soon as Hang moved away from the hospital, Mary's heart rate began to stabilize. The doctors immediately noticed this and started working frantically to revive her. Hang knew that only by staying away from Mary could he save her, but his own powers were also weakened. He couldn't make high jumps, only small ones before landing back down. But he didn't stop and continued jumping, heading out of the city. As he increased the distance between them, both their powers began to return. Mary's wounds started to heal, and Hang's powers were fully restored. He was now able to jump so high that he even reached the moon. Hang realized that to keep Mary alive, he had to stay away from her. Some time later, Mary was shown happily living with Ray and her family. Hang, now back on Earth from the moon, had decided to dedicate himself to helping people as a superhero. He also promised to never go back to Mary, as being near her would endanger her life. Thus, both Mary and Hang began living their separate lives, content in their own ways. Mary had a normal life with her family, and Hang had regained the respect he had lost. He protected the city and reduced crime. And so, our story comes to an end.